kids, welcome to Styles Rumble Doodle Time thing. So I haven't done much drawing on this channel, but my first love is drawing. I've loved animation ever since I was a kid, but I loved the hand-drawn stuff. I loved the dynamic drawing and the movement and the magic that comes with drawing something and having it do a thing. Like, it's just, that's how I got here. The drawing thing. So towards the end of the night, I'm just kind of settling down. I'm doing a little bit of drawing before I go to bed, and I figured I'd make a little video and just talk about it. I'll show you a few of my sketches because I'm just gonna be doing a little bit of sketching, talking about sketching. So this is my favorite type of stuff to draw. Well, one of them. I have a bunch of things I love to draw, but I love drawing organic forms and stuff. And this is a great exercise if you're interested in special effects animation in particular, because it's thinking about an intuitive perspective, thinking about how things wrap around one another, thinking about how things like move and wind around different forms, and this sort of thing really helps if you're going to be an effects animator just studying in this sort of way. And it's super fun, and who doesn't like little tree monsters? I really like drawing organic stuff, so trees and bushes and plants and characters. There's just lots of very samey looking characters in here. This, I like to force myself out of my comfort zone, so I leave the land of the organic. Sometimes organic stuff sneaks in there, but I try and do stuff that's a little bit more structural, so keeping my layout up to date, being able to do environment designs if I need that, or just perspective in general is going to help you with any type of drawing you like to do, whether it's character animation or special effects. Illustration. Perspective is totally necessary, so keeping up with your structural drawing is great. None of these are my designs, or they might partially be from several different photo references, but I just go on Pinterest and search for, you know, house or cottage, or I maybe even just put in the blue or comfortable, something like that, and just whatever comes up, I'll just do little thumbnail sketches of whatever I happen to see. It's a great exercise to just force yourself to draw things that you're not comfortable with, and if you're blocked, if you're like, oh, I don't know what to draw, then you don't really have an option. You just type in like the 70s, and then whatever one picks your fancy, just doodle that, draw it in a thumbnail. So it's a great exercise for warm-ups or just a practice day. If you're like, oh, today I'm just gonna have a practice day and not, you know, worry about doing anything good, this stuff's great to do. Pinterest roulette. Or trees. This is just blue and red, black ballpoint pen. I do most of my sketching in pen unless it's digital. All of this stuff is pen. I've got some, these are some color erase, these like sort of brownie colored ones. This one's color erase, but the rest of this is ballpoint pen, and these are ballpoint pen. I like them because they act like a pencil, but they eliminate that option of erasing. Because if you're erasing, you're not drawing, you're not sketching. And when you're doing a sketchbook, like, so you can see I've got notes in here from work, like I have to do a smoke thing for scene 97 in whatever show I was working on when I doodled these. There's just some random flowers, and like this just didn't get off the ground. And that's what a sketchbook should look like. Like, this is hacked up from many different pieces of sketchbook. And this was when I was posting on concept art ages ago, conceptart.org. You can see in here, this is cropped out from a bunch of different sketchbooks because you don't need to keep everything in your sketchbook. Everything doesn't need to be a good drawing. This is on the back of like a paper. You can see there's words there. I just turned a piece of paper over and just doodled on it. And part of sketching is learning to just forgive yourself for drawing badly. Like, this stuff's not done. It's never going to be done. If I zoom in a little bit, you can see that this is lots of like squiggles and stuff. There's lots of like not good things happening in these drawings, but the point wasn't to make a good drawing, it was to learn things, to work on my composition, to think about the perspective of things, how these things are moving back. The transition between midground to background, I'm terrible at. So just like, where do you go from like the middle ground trees to the background trees? I just draw smaller and smaller trees into the distance, and it looks, it's not good, you guys. But my point is that sketchbooks are for learning. They're not for doing good art. And sometimes art accidentally happens, good things happen, but that's not the goal. And one question I get asked a lot is about line art, especially if I'm doing something like this. People are like, how do you keep your lines so clean when you're sketching? Because if you can see there are some loose lines in there where I'm looking for the forms and stuff. And there's a little bit more here where I'm just trying to make sure that my forms are wrapping around and connecting where they need to connect. But it's overall fairly clean. And there's no secret to clean line art. It's really just dedicated practice. So you have, for the first 5 or 10 minutes of each drawing session, I'm going to practice line art. Start just doing, you know, thin to thick, thin to thick. Do 10 of those, and then do thick to thin, thick to thin. I'm not good at thick to thin. I'm more of a thin to thick person. A lot of people, especially younger artists, are really either heavy-handed or they're super light-handed. They'll use, like, using the exact same pen, they'll get these 2 different lines. And part of good line work is being able to decide when you're doing it light or when you're doing it hard. It's not an accident. You are thinking about how thick you want your line. You want a thick line here. Maybe you're drawing a tree, and then you want a little branch to come off there, so you want it to be tapered down towards the bottom. And then at this intersection, you want this to be a solid connection. Right there. Oop. This part of the tree in here is sort of merging, like they're connecting, but not overlapping like this. So you want to be choosing the places where you're getting these thick lines and choosing where you're getting the thin lines. You don't want your hand to control what's happening. You want your brain to control what's happening. So just doing little stuff like this, thin to thick to thin, or you can do thin, thick, thin, thin, thick, thin. And while you're doing this, you're also practicing keeping your lines straight. Well, that one wasn't straight. Thick, thin, thick, thick, thin, thick. So this type of stuff, if you were doing the internal lines of the tree, and I find it's much easier to do on a curve than in a straight line. You want to be able to control the thickness of it so that you can do things that are on purpose. That's the whole reason to do this, thin, thick, thick, thin, thick. And you also want to get familiar with the natural curves of your hand. So you have your fingers. So if you pull your fingers towards you, like this, you're going to get a certain line, a certain curve. And it's going to be almost identical, just flicking your wrist or your fingers at the same joint. You're going to get consistent lines every single time with in relation to like the curve of your fingers. That's your finger curve. And then next is your wrist curve. So if I'm locking my hand here and I'm going to throw my lines that way or throw my lines this way, and you're going to get consistent curves. So it's good to get to know where your curves are, because if you're cleaning up and you need a curve, you need to know what part of your body is going to give you the most convenient version of that curve. So if you need a big one, then you lock your elbow. I have this really inconvenient scratch on my elbow. And when it touches my table, I'm just like, it's such a minor inconvenience in my life. But I'm going to put my elbow on the arm of my chair, and then I'm just going to use that as my anchor point to draw my rainbow. So now I have 5 identical lines, all as identical as I can make, that are going along the same curve. And it's not through trickery or magic, it's just knowing that if I lock a piece of my body in position, then I'm going to be getting the same curve over and over again. And you get to learn how your curves, like the natural curves of your body. So, stuff like doing S curves, you want to practice doing consistent curves like this. And then you want to practice doing consistent curves going the other way. And you want to figure out what is most convenient for you. Do you like to curl this way, or do you like to curl that way? And to make sure they were opposite, or it's gonna look really dumb, like clockwise, counterclockwise. So figure out which way, like, do you like doing C curves this way, or do you like doing C curves this way? This way is much harder for me because I'm right-handed, so it's easier for me to pull towards my hand than it is to go away from my hand. And also because I write with the English alphabet, then I'm used to, C. I'm used to writing English letters, so that's going to have a big impact on how I draw as well. Concentric circles is another one I like to do, or just trying to draw them actually circular. This is another good exercise. When you're cleaning something, if you have a rough design and you've got this little design that somebody's handed to you, they're like, oh, okay, here's my rough layout. I need you to clean it up. So if you know where your curves are, you know how your hand works, then you have this big S curve like this. You can decide intentionally whether you're going to do it like this, or whether you're going to do it like this, or if you're going to turn your guy like this. Is it better for you to do it like this? Or is it better for you to do it down this way? Knowing the natural curves of your hands, you can use those to your advantage. So if you really need this to be super tight, you know that you can lock your wrist here, and you're going to get that curve. And now you know if you flip your canvas and you lock your wrist here, you're going to get that curve, and you only have to get this little tail bit on the end. So it's not just a matter of repetition and practice and stuff like that. Just being able to control the heaviness of your line through your thin, thick exercises, but also getting to know how your arm likes to move and when you should flip the canvas, or when you can use your wrist versus your elbow versus your fingertips. That's something that really blew my mind when I first learned about it. When I got to college, I'd never really had any art instruction. I had a teacher who was just standing in front of the class, and he's like, okay, here's how you hold your pencil. You can hold it like this, and you can use your fingers as a pivot point. And I was like, yeah, you can. He's like, you can use your wrist as a pivot point. I was like, oh my God, this is blowing my mind. I was in my 20s, so don't feel bad if you didn't know this. And if you do know this, don't be like super cocky either, okay? Because not everyone knows this stuff. I didn't. I was happy to learn it, so there. Also, just being able to hold your pen in different ways, like using your wrist as an anchor and then controlling how far away your pen is. So if my pen is really far away like this, then I get that angle. But if I pull my pen in like this, and think of it like a spirograph, so I'm going to start out far from my hand, and then pull it in closer, and then closer, closer, closer. But now that I've got the angle that I want, say it's here, I can make those lines really consistent. It's not anything other than knowing how to lock your hand and then use your spirograph. So that's it. Hopefully this gives you something to think about for your own warm-up. If you have a good warm-up that you do, please share that. Let me know how you feel about me drawing more on this channel. Do you guys like monsters made of trees? Or do you guys like perspective? I don't know what you guys like. I just know I haven't been drawing enough lately. I might clean up this little tree, actually. I think it's pretty cute. I do have an Instagram that I have linked somewhere in my channel description if you are interested in keeping up with me drawing-wise. If you have an art Instagram and you follow me, I will likely follow you. If you have a personal Instagram and there's lots of family photos, I probably won't follow you. Instagram is basically just like my art haven. I love logging on and just seeing all the art filling my feed. It's great. All right, so let me know what kind of stuff you want to see. More animation breakdowns, more character stuff, more rigging stuff. If there's any rigging questions I haven't gone over, let me know how you feel about the drawings, anything at all. Even if whatever you want. You're going to tell me you hate my haircut? Do that. Because I don't have a plan for my channel. So if you guys don't tell me what you want to see, I'm just going to make it up as I go. And you're going to see tree monsters. Or I'm going to start trying my Critical Role fan art on here. So like, share, subscribe, all those things internet people ask you to do. And I'll see you in the next episode, which will probably be a secret.